Matthew, what's up, man? How's it going? How's it feel to be Matthew today?
Yeah, man, it's good, man. Can't complain. Truly blessed to be here. I'm truly blessed to be on your podcast. I've been waiting a while. You're a busy man to
Booked.
get to
Booked.
get booked. Yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you for
Yeah,
coming, man. I'm excited to jump into the conversation and
sure.
excited to talk about. I love this show because I get the opportunity to talk with so many people and their little 1 degree pivots in
Hmm.
medicine and
Hmm.
entrepreneurship and in real estate. So I'm excited to talk about what you have going on today
Yeah.
and learn a little bit more about Matthew. Tell
Yeah.
us where you're at medically, your journey, where it started and where you're at now.
Yeah, so let's see, man. It's been some time. So I will say I am now a third year PGY3 internal medicine resident. So I graduate in a few months, and then I'm moving on to do a 3-year pulmonary critical care fellowship down in Morehouse in Atlanta, Georgia. So still some more training. But originally, I think we were talking about before, originally from Columbus, Ohio. Did most of my training in Maryland, so I was over at the University of Maryland doing my medical school training, and then ultimately came here to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, just to kind of do my residency. I've been here about 3 years now. It's always tough being a first gen in anything that you do, but parents. I think my mom graduated college, but that's as high as anyone's gotten in my family, and then. It kind of relied on me to kind of break that generational curse and to do something beyond that. My parents, they worked super hard to get me into college, and then from there they're like, hey, it's kind of up to you, to get anywhere further than that. And thank goodness I had a great mentor. He was actually a physician, and also a pharmacy mentor, and they kind of were like, hey man, I think you can do medicine. I think that's the goal for you. And ultimately kind of got me with the right people, the right connections, and then that kind of, the rest kind of happened organically from there. Owe a lot of the credit to my training in terms of like being an athlete. We're taught very early on, like, do not quit no matter what. Just keep pushing through. It's going to get easier. Those kind of things, and just kind of the environment that I grew up in. It was kind of a sink or swim kind of environment. And so I think I kind of had that internally hard drive inside from the beginning. And so I can't tell you how many times I've gone, without sleep, just messaging medical students like, hey, I have a new tutoring company. Why don't you try it? Trying to figure out how to make videos, those kind of things throughout the night after, being on the medicine rounds and wards and those kind of things. It takes so much effort, to be honest. And another thing I've learned to get used to is the word no. You get, you hear no a lot, and sometimes it can be scary at first, but now it's just another word for me. I've been told no at least 100 times before I got my first yes,
Yeah.
and that holds true even now. So yeah, that resiliency has to be there. Think, at least for physicians and all, and I'm sure you've experienced this plenty of times over and over. We're so focused on just making it out. We get into medical school, and then after medical school, it doesn't stop there. We now have to get our license to practice, right? And so we have residency, which is another 3 to 5 years, depending on that. And then after that, then we're thinking of either, starting our own, primary care physician, or we're thinking of doing additional training, like, fellowship, for example. So I think a lot of that goes in the background, and we're not necessarily focused on it. And we hear it now and then. We'll have some financial advisors come and talk with us on some of our off days and those kind of things. But to be honest, I felt like we're just so overwhelmed with the amount of information and patient care that we're doing. We're not really focusing on it until we're finally there. We have our license, we're ready to practice, and now we're thinking like, oh, maybe we should have been saving along the way, or maybe we should have been investing in ourselves. So yeah, to be honest, I don't think about it too much, or have not thought about it as much as I should have, to be honest. Being a first generation, physician, I've now looking back, working with these students, I see myself in them, and I'm like, man, I wish I knew that when I was at that point in time. And like, how am I able to make life easier for these students, these nurses, those kind of
Hmm.
things in training. And so, yeah, that's absolutely something that I've definitely thought about. Like I said, I think networking is huge for me personally. And so, having the right people, like I said, like yourself, to just say like, hey, I have a person that you can talk to very early on, even if it's just like a simple conversation, just planting that seed, in terms of, financial freedom and those kind of things. Like, what does that look like for
Mhm.
you? And like, how old do you think you'll be when you get to that point? Or do you have a plan for getting to that point? Those kind of things. So yeah, definitely it's something that I have planned, somewhere in this
Yeah,
brain of
yeah.
mine.
F-
Yeah.
Financial freedom should be really be synonymous, if that's a word. Sometimes I reach outside of my own thesaurus and I just try to
Hmm.
throw that out there.
Hmm.
Should be the same as career flexibility. And we talk
Mm.
about this a lot. Is it's not just to have nice things or have more money or anything like that. It's just the ability to to do what God has created you to do.
Mhm. One thing is like you just have to trust others. You have to get people who, really are invested in you and in your business. And because one thing you'll do is if you try and you can never run a business by yourself.
Hmm.
Especially when getting to this LLC or this S corp. I've had to have so many people help me along the way, and I've run myself dry so many times just trying to doing these cold calls on my own and, trying to get the right resources and network on my own, those kind of things. So asking for help, I think, is the biggest thing that I've learned, along the way. And that's something that I just personally struggle with, and we could spend a whole hour talking about that journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think asking for help, would be the biggest thing. We kind of talked about it before, as well. Is just being okay with someone telling you no,
Hmm.
as well. Don't take it personally. That's just them. That doesn't mean the next person is going to tell you no. Um, and then let's see, I think there was another thing. It's just like delegating out roles, I think is another thing. It's just a leader in general for whatever you want to do. I think that's very important. So that way everyone knows what their tasks are.
Hmm.
It's just laid out in front of them, and that way they can just go ahead and do it their way and then kind of report back to you a little bit later on. But, yeah, I think those would be the biggest things that I've kind of learned along the way.
And when you do get those no's or feel like things are piling up on you, work,
Hmm.
the business, life in general, do you have
Hmm.
any tricks or tips that helps you build that resilience? When you're
Yeah.
feeling overwhelmed, what does Matthew do to
Yeah.
step back and shift the perspective back on what
Yeah.
matters?
So first off, I'm a praying man, so I like to pray through everything. So that's one big, resource that I have. The other things is, I have friends who are close to me, and they're kind of businessmen in their own aspect, and so I kind of talk to them. I just tell them, hey, this is what's going on in my life. What have you done, in your career when you were in this point in time? I reach out to mentors. I've obviously talked to some of my patients about some of my business
Yeah.
things, just randomly, just getting a fresh perspective, I think, is very important, especially when I feel like I've hit a wall. And you'd be surprised, the good advice that's out there,
Hmm.
for you. You just kind of got to ask and you got to seek it. And sometimes it's okay to just take time away from the business. I've taken days off where I've just, gone on a vacation, or I'm just, even just 20 minutes, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to read a book or cook something, whatever it may be. Just taking that time away is also very important as well. Just focusing on yourself. I wish I just wasn't afraid to take risk early on. It's like calculated risk, I should say. Um, and how do you do that? I think just getting educated on, what you're investing in, and maybe just building that networking, that foundation from that standpoint. I was a person who was just all about, I'll find out myself. I'll kind of tough it through and, figure it out. But, once I actually started asking for help, and I started getting assistance from others who were smarter than me, had the right resources, those kind of things, I realized how foolish it was to try and do everything on your own,
Hmm.
and how you're going against the grain, you're going against the tides, and how just tiring that is. So, if I'm speaking to anyone out there, I would just say just reach out. If when in doubt, reach out to someone who's in the field that you want to be in. And it's okay if they don't respond. It's okay if they say no. Just keep doing it until you find that right person, because there's someone out there for you. reach out, get a mentor, and then take those calculated risks. There's nothing wrong with it. You might mess up the first time, but you won't the second time, or you won't the third time. Those kind of things. And so that would probably be the biggest piece of advice that I would give, at least to my younger self.